test and a fortitude on the part of both participants. Sunset flip. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of this bout and new Intercontinental Champion, the British Bulldog.
Oh, look at that. What is this?
She took off her dress. She took off her skirt, Gorilla Monsoon. I don't know.
Elizabeth has shot everybody. Look at Jesse. He doesn't know what to do.
I don't believe her eyes.
Look at the $1 Million Man. He doesn't know what to do.
You don't know what to do.
Look at Andre. He's bewildered.
Everybody's shocked. Everybody's on their feet, Gorilla. If you smell what the Rock is cooking.
WBCB presents Pro Wrestling Weekly.
Tell me he didn't just say that.
Call in with a question or comment at 215-949-3232 or 888-922-2149.
The Tower of Power, too sweet to be sour, funky like a monkey, ooh yeah!
And now, here's your host of Pro Wrestling Weekly, Fearon Derry.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
Really? Yeah!
Hello and welcome to a SummerSlam preview edition of Pro Wrestling Weekly, 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Fearon Derry here with you, at least not here in studio. Pre-recording the show, heading on vacation, currently north of the border, but a lot of stuff to talk about. A couple of great jam-packed interviews later in the show. We've got Knobs and Sags, the Nasty Boys, of course, the former WWE and WCW Tag Team Champions from back in the 80s and 90s, as well as the Total Package, Lex Luger, the former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. All that here on the show, plus I've got a review of what happened on Hardcore Justice. We'll get to that in a minute, and of course, looking back at SummerSlam, some of those great clips you heard in the opener. We'll talk a little bit of SummerSlam as well, as the pay-per-view is tomorrow. First, we're going to take a look at the TNA Hardcore Justice pay-per-view. An interesting pay-per-view as far as my predictions starting to go wrong. I was pretty much in the middle, got 4 out of the 7 right. And of course, we had a bonus match in there. Let's take a look at the lineup. Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez against Kid Cash and Gunner. Guerrero and Hernandez got the nod in that one, as I had kind of figured. About a 10-minute match, a little longer than I expected, but again, with the nature of the hardcore matches later in the night, I can see how they needed to bring a little bit of time into it. Next up, you had Rob Van Dam, Mr. Anderson, D'Angelo De Niro, and Magnus in that 4-way Falls Count Anywhere match for 20 points in the Bound for Glory series. I had gone with the Pope, and the Pope didn't even get into the match as his music played. Well, he didn't even get out of the curtain, really. He ended up getting attacked by Aces and Eights and was a complete non-factor in the match, so it ended up being a 3-way Van Dam, Anderson, and Magnus, and RVD getting the victory in that one, earning the 20 points and bumping up quite a bit in the standings in the Bound for Glory series. Next up, you had a match that wasn't advertised, Devon against Kazarian for the TNA television title. Devon retains in about 8.5 minutes. Then we make our way over to the Knockouts title, where Madison Rayne ends up beating Miss Tessmacher to become the new TNA Knockouts champion, and a rather, we'll just say interesting finish, as, of course, the continued pairing that I haven't talked about because I haven't really found a lot of interest in it, but the supposed love interest between Madison Rayne and referee Earl Hebner. I don't know. Can't he just stick with getting "You Screwed Brett" chanted at him now 15 years later? Oh my gosh, 15 years. Anyway, James Storm, Bully Ray, Jeff Hardy, and Robbie E. The tables match for 20 Bound for Glory series points. For this one, I went with, of course, Bully Ray, because he is experienced in tables matches. He ended up injuring his elbow in the match, but Bully Ray did take it in about 14 minutes to get 20 points as well. And he's right back in the midst of the standings as well, something that he definitely needed. Zema Ion and Kenny King, X Division title. I went with Ion here and got that one right. Ion retaining in about 11 minutes. Then, of course, you had AJ Styles, Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, and Christopher Daniels. A lot of people say the match of the night, and this one certainly didn't disappoint. 20 Bound for Glory Series points on the line, and 4 of your greatest TNA superstars in the ring in a ladder match, no less. And AJ Styles climbed the ladder, grabbed the clipboard, and got the 20 points, moving up considerably in the standings. And a little interesting note that the TNA announcers, Tenay and Taz, pointing out that that Styles still has a couple of matches at hand, which is something that I didn't think they'd necessarily pay attention to. But it's a nice little touch that even though he's in 7th place with that victory, so still a ways to go, but he has some matches still to wrestle that a lot of the other guys don't. So they are trying to stick with that. Everybody competes in the same number of matches, something that they didn't do last year in this Bound for Glory series. And then finally, the TNA Championship, Austin Aries, Bobby Roode. I figured Roode was going to retain. We were going to make our way to James Storm and Bobby Roode for Bound for Glory, but shame on me for going against Austin Aries. Aries retaining the TNA title in a great 25-minute match. You can't get them all right. I only got 4 out of the 7, but still not a bad year. 62-35 on my picks for 2012. Wish the Phillies were 62-35 right now. Almost seems like the opposite. But there is your Hardcore Justice lineup. More developments coming from Impact, which I won't know because I recorded this on Wednesday and the show's airing live on Thursday. So we'll talk more about that next week. Great show coming up next week. And with me, of course, being in Canada, I figure we're going to go over a little topic to talk about your favorite Canadian wrestlers of all time. And I'm sure with the litany and history of wrestlers from north of the border, there's going to be a lot of different thoughts on that. I won't even throw any out now. I'll let you kind of think, ponder about it. You can go onto the Facebook fan page, WBCB Pro Wrestling Weekly. I'll go ahead and leave a caption up there. Get your thoughts on your favorite Canadian wrestlers, and we'll go over that all next week. Speaking of the Facebook fan page, we've also got some Facebook feedback we'll get to in a little bit. But first, I want to preview SummerSlam and give my predictions certain to go wrong for that event. We've got a surprising 7 matches advertised. Usually there's only 4 and they give you 3 fillers. No, this is one of their bigger pay-per-views of the year, so they're actually going to tell you in advance what most of the matches are. Certainly a change from the WWE norm as of late. A match just recently added onto the card, Santino Marella defending the U.S. Championship against Antonio Cesaro. Of course, a long while ago, a few years ago, in fact, we had Antonio on here back when he was Claudio Castagnoli wrestling for Ring of Honor and Chikara back in the day. We talked with him for a little bit. So it's good to see that he's making his way up the ranks, and I think that's going to continue here in what a lot of people are thinking are an upset. And I know I've made some off-the-wall, out-of-my-mind picks before. I'm going with Cesaro to end the Santino Comedy Belt Tour and take the U.S. Championship and bring a little prestige back to the title, something that hasn't really been around with Santino holding the belt. It hasn't been there. He's come out, he's lost all kinds of non-title matches. He hasn't really been seen as a credible champion. I think Cesaro can certainly bring that, and this is one I actually hope that I get right. Well, I hope I get them all right, but this one I'm, for personal reasons as well. Anybody who I have on the show, I always like and hope that, they go on to better things. That way I can say I knew them when. Looking at the rest of the card, we've got Kofi Kingston and R-Truth defending the tag titles against the Primetime Players. Something tells me that Titus O'Neil and Darren Young are going to be a little bit in the doghouse for now former manager AW's comments, who now he's taken to Twitter and he is just ripping anybody and everybody, and not just burning every bridge in WWE, but burning the ashes of the bridges that he burnt in WWE. So I think the Primetime Players, they're going to be in the doghouse a little bit for that, so I think Kofi Kingston and R-Truth are going to retain on that one. You've got The Miz defending the Intercontinental title against Rey Mysterio Jr. because, hey, he needs something to do now that he's back from his knee surgery and suspension. And The Miz needed something to do since coming back from filming a movie and winning the Intercontinental Championship. I think Miz is going to hang on to it here. If not for the fact that Miz and Cody Rhodes were both heels, I would love to see a Miz-Cody Rhodes program, but I don't think we're going to get that necessarily. But we are going to get Miz retaining the Intercontinental Championship. At least that's what I'm predicting. A match I am really looking forward to. Chris Jericho against Dolph Ziggler. Now, is it me, or does it seem like for a year and a half now we've been saying Dolph Ziggler, he's ready to make that next step up? I think that a win against Jericho will only further fuel that, and since Jericho's going off to do some more touring with Fozzy, it seems perfect that Jericho, he's going to give Ziggler the win on the way out, as this run, well, Jericho thinks it's been entertaining. I think a lot of people have found it disappointing. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle on it. But either way, Ziggler gets the win in what should be a fantastic match, and they're going to make each other look like $1 million. Certainly looking forward to that one. Then you've got the match that I didn't put on my notes because I'd skipped over the line out of fatigue and kind of forgot about, and something tells me that a lot of the fans have as well. Kane against Daniel Bryan. Bryan's been kind of out there. He's been doing the whole, the no gimmick now as opposed to yes, which I think is starting to hit the beating a dead horse level. Just a thought. But either way, he's kind of going against Kane, which was 2/3 of the love triangle with AJ from a couple of months ago. But really, they've had no reason to continue their feud other than neither of them really have a match going on at SummerSlam. I'm going to go with Bryan here just so it gives the fans a reason to chant no, no, no. That's really the only reason. It's kind of a coin flip with either of these guys. And then you've got the two main events. First, the overshadowed main event, despite the fact that John Cena's in it. Who'd have thought I'd ever say that? CM Punk defending the WWE title against John Cena and The Big Show. I'm going with Punk here. I don't think it's time to put the belt on Cena, and I'd be absolutely shocked if Big Show got a run here, even though he's kind of the third wheel in this regard. But I'm going with Punk on this one, and spoiler alert, although SmackDown will have aired, obviously, by the time this program airs, but there is an 8th match on the card. It is back on Sheamus and Alberto Del Rio for the world title. I'm going to stick with Sheamus on that just because Alberto Del Rio has continued to not look all that great, and I have a feeling putting the title on him now wouldn't exactly be great for business. I mean, I'd love to see it, but he's been built as so uncredible for a long time that it's going to take probably longer to build that back up, and I don't know if I have faith in the WWE creative to do that. So I'm going with Sheamus on that over Alberto Del Rio. And finally, you have what has been the main event, the big event, almost a WrestleMania-worthy match, and they're building it for SummerSlam and billing it for SummerSlam. Triple H against Brock Lesnar. Shawn Michaels was supposed to be in the corner of Triple H, but, that's not necessarily going to be the case. Of course, there was the contract signing. Shawn Michaels came out, and backstage, which I'm not airing that because, well, it was a little bit of a head-scratcher, all things told, and I'm sure there'll be tons of feedback for it if there isn't already. The fender bender, I guess, between Shawn Michaels and Paul Heyman, which of course leads to Lesnar attacking Michaels out in the parking lot, dragging him to the ring, and then locking on a Kimura in the middle of the ring, basically holding him hostage as Triple H stands at bay, with Heyman saying, "Don't come any closer or he'll break his arm," and then, of course, Lesnar wrenching back on that arm that much more, and Michaels selling it insanely as if his arm was broken, and that's what they're declaring now, that Shawn Michaels' arm is broken, and he will not be in the corner of Triple H for this main event. And for that reason, among many others, and mainly because they need to build some credibility for Lesnar, even though he's only wrestled one match and hasn't won it, and that was back in May, I think Lesnar's going to get the nod over Triple H so he can go to Titan Towers and finally get his last itch, at least for the next, 8-9 months of being in the ring, out of the way. So there you have it. Antonio Cesaro, Kofi Kingston and R-Truth, The Miz, Dolph Ziggler, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Sheamus, and Brock Lesnar. Take your picks and do with what you will accordingly, but do so responsibly. Quick look at some news and notes, of course, that have happened over the course of the week. Linda McMahon on Tuesday, in pretty much not a surprise to anyone, winning the Republican primary in Connecticut. Now the challenge is she is looking to win the election in November and trying to become the first Republican to win a Senate seat in Connecticut in over 30 years. Definitely a challenge, to say the least. All right, let's go to the Facebook fan page. Let's take a look. A lot of reaction to a bunch of different things. John from the Northeast chiming in. Fearon, thoughts on Sandow? I like what they're doing with Damian Sandow. They're not giving him too big of a push, but they're also kind of putting him out there. He got a little bit of rub from Raw 1000 and being involved with the DX reunion. And even though he got his what handed to him, he still had a rather impressive showing nonetheless. And what they need to do, though, is they got to change those pink and purple tights that almost scream out Lanny Poffo the genius without the graduation cap. That's pretty much what they've got to do there. And thanks to my buddy Mike Samsel, he also let me know that apparently Damian Sandow is very, very close buddies with Triple H. So on that note alone, it looks like the future is bright for one Damian Sandow. He also wants to know the tag team division and Diva division, is it reborn or is it doomed to fail again? I think it's somewhere in the middle. I don't think it's necessarily reborn and going to have some sort of a boom, but I don't think it's going to necessarily fail either as it has in the past. I think it's just going to kind of be there. It's not going to be great. It's not going to be awful. It's just going to be. It will exist. And thoughts on perhaps a potential Sandow and Barrett NWO-style union against the WWE machine? Well, the problem is, as great as the NWO was 16 years ago, because it's been hashed and rehashed and re-rehashed and reunionized and re-reunionized and re-re-reunionized and split off and all these other different things, you mentioned those letters NWO, and it's almost like you're saying a dirty word that I should censor. So some sort of a faction to go against the WWE machine. I don't know. Didn't they do that a couple of years ago with the Nexus? Isn't that what that was all about? How far did that go? I guess it didn't really. I don't know. It didn't. They had like 7 or 8 people. The problem is all of them were green. And I think maybe if they have some sort of a mix of younger guys and veterans to kind of help guide things a little bit. I mean, you could have Sandow as their mouthpiece. But I don't know. I mean, who would you put in that necessarily? Unless it's all the guys who have gotten pushes over the years and have kind of faded into obscurity. So if that's the case, let's see. You could put Jack Swagger in there. You could go with Kofi Kingston, although he's kind of tied up with the tag titles. But you know what? Put him and R-Truth in there. I mean, R-Truth has been pretty much irrelevant since being in the WWE, going back to when he was teamed up with the Road Dogg Jesse James as K-Quick back in the day. Get Rowdy? Yeah, not so much. And he could use that in a promo, perhaps. It'd be the most emotion that he's probably shown, and he can get away from this little Jimmy nonsense, too, which is chuckle-worthy at best. Don't forget, tomorrow, August 19th, over at George's Cards and Collectibles, they have 2 locations. This one's going to be at the Oxford Valley Mall location, though. Tomorrow from 1 to 3, Matt Hardy and Shelly Martinez, both former WWE stars, they're going to be at the Oxford Valley Mall at George's Cards and Collectibles for autographs, for photo ops. Definitely want to make your way over there. For more information, call 215-943-2475 or log on to georgescollectibles.com. And an upcoming appearance also for George's Cards and Collectibles, one I'm looking forward to being at. D'Lo Brown is going to be at the New Falls location on Saturday, September 15th. Definitely looking forward to that, but make sure to check out Matt Hardy and Shelly Martinez at George's Cards and Collectibles, Oxford Valley Mall, tomorrow from 1 to 3, and then head on home and check out SummerSlam. Going to take care of a little bit of business, come back. I've got the interview with the Nasty Boys coming up. Also later this hour, my interview with the Total Package, Lex Luger. We've also got more of your Facebook feedback, a little more news and notes. So much to do still here on Pro Wrestling Weekly, here on 1490 WBCB, and online at WBCB1490.com.